first off, I want to thank everyone for coming out today and listening to the conversations. These kind of events are what I get really excited about. I love talking to people. I love hearing what kind of problems they're trying to solve. I love talking with folks like Rafa because they've got so many great ideas. The notion of the micropayments and these kind of economies that get created is very interesting to me because it really opens the door to completely new ideas that have never existed before. And Haste Arcade is one of those ideas. Anyone like Stranger Things? Okay, there we go. It's like surely somebody here likes it. And Stranger Things, what I love about that show is the nostalgia of it. You know, it takes you back to the 80s, it takes you back to the early 90s, and you really get to see how people interacted back then. I am from that time, so I also understand how it was, and being in an arcade and experiencing these things for folks. What was great about the arcade was the social component. You know, you get to interact with people, you play with your friends, you're challenging each other. That's really fun, but it's very confined to that local community and that ecosystem. So Haste Arcade really wants to take that nostalgia of the arcade and really make it global. So we take this concept of hyper-casual games that people can play and ultimately allow them to earn money. Envision playing Pac-Man, putting a quarter in, you place on the leaderboard, and then after that, anytime someone plays that same game, you get a piece of that quarter. That's really exciting to us, and that's what we're excited about. So this is a picture of the arcade. First and foremost, it's a digital arcade. It's a marketplace for games where people can go see different games and ultimately play them. There's a lot of challenges with this system and really Bitcoin in general, which is user experience is not great. I actually recently, as in the past year, just started getting into cryptocurrency and blockchain. And even as a technologist and a developer, it was very difficult for me. You know, it's not simple. It's, hey, which blockchain do I need to use? Okay, now which wallet do I need to use? Well, this wallet has this purpose, and this wallet has this purpose. And it's too much. You throw your hands up and say, I give up as a user. Then you got to go to the exchange after that. Then you send this money to this really long-ass address that you can't remember and you hope you get right type of thing. Like, that's not a great user experience. My previous life, I was a consultant. We dealt a lot with product management, how to make great experiences for people, and we try to apply those notions to the arcade as well to make something that my mom can go and play this. You know, if I sent my mom to the arcade and said, hey, can you test out this cool thing I built? And she says, oh, I don't know what you do as a living. And I say, this is what we do. Well, then she would get started and she'd get frustrated and she'd give up. How do we make that easy? Well, we're working with folks like Rafa at Handcash, other folks in the BSV space to really try to improve this experience and ultimately make it easy for people. The vision of the arcade is I can send my mom to the arcade. She can sign up with something she's familiar with, like Google or Twitter. Then she can start playing games. That's it. I don't want her to really have to understand all the underpinnings of Bitcoin. The games themselves have to be fun. That's critical. You know, there's a lot of talk in the space around play to win versus play to earn, and there's a lot of different perspectives on it. For Haste specifically, we very much are opposed to play to win. That's not fun for players. Just because you have the most money doesn't mean you should be the best at a game. So play to earn is an interesting concept, but even that doesn't quite go far enough, in my opinion. Play to earn can turn into a job. This isn't about being a job, working 9 to 5, playing, Jump or Forest and Fire, and being able to make money. I mean, that's great if people want to do that, and that's their experience, but we want people to enjoy the games themselves. So I actually prefer a different term called play and earn, because really the earning is secondary to the playing. Gamers want to play fun games. These games are very hyper-casual. We haven't built, Call of Duty yet. We're not building those kind of games. These games are played for 30 seconds at a stretch, minutes at a stretch. Play it while you're waiting for your significant other to, change clothes in the changing station or, those kind of things. That's what these kind of games currently are. The vision of what this can be, though, is really great. Not everyone's going to want to enjoy ILP or instant leaderboard payouts, so we're going to have different modes of play and things like that on our roadmap. But let's just walk through the arcade and how simple it is. So you find the game you want to play. You can start looking at, what kind of leaderboards you see. Rainey is one of our top players. His score is 3 times what everyone else is. But You can't see it here. We also show how many times Rennie's played. He's played 10 times more than everyone else. That's someone playing a game, getting really good at it, and then earning money in it. That is our vision of what this can be. Play a game, get good, earn money. That's the plan. You launch the game. Jump is one of our more popular games. It's very simple. You jump from block to block. You get 2 jumps, and then that resets every time you hit a block. Very simple game. It's pretty addicting. Even while I was building it, I would find myself just playing the game and not actually fixing the bugs I was supposed to be fixing. Once you start a game, you have to pick what payment tier you want to play. Everyone has different means. People are from different countries. We needed a system that we believe to be as fair as possible. So we want people to be able to experience ILP even if they don't have a lot of money. So you can play for as little as 1 cent. You can actually play for free. That would be my recommended approach, especially when starting a new game. You don't want to go drop $100 on a game that you've never played before. So you start playing for free, and then you kind of work your way up through the tiers as you get better. That's kind of the vision there. Now, what's really interesting about the nano payment, and speaks to what Rafa was talking about as well, is you're playing for a penny, where then the leaderboard is 100 people. So we're splitting that penny 100 different ways to go out and pay these leaderboards. And it all happens instantly. As soon as you click the nano button, 100 people get paid. You get a little ding in your hand cash wallet. That's really powerful, and that's really fun. And then you play the game, and that's it. Now, this game, or this screenshot, I should say, is highlighting one of our new features called Haste Collectibles. The original version of the jump game is actually a colored ball with just different color obstacles, which are the platforms you jump from. This is showing like a skinned version of that. So you can buy this as an NFT within our platform. You can then sell it if you want. But ultimately, they're all cosmetic today. But it just kind of continues to prove out what can be done in the arcade, which is making new experiences for different players and giving everyone options for how they want to play. So let's talk about impact of what ILP does for the gaming ecosystem. We believe that the current monetization model for gaming is somewhat broken. There's a few ways you can monetize a game. You can pay $60, $80, whatever it is, one-time fee, play the game as much as you want. A lot of AAA studios are doing this. It's a proven model. If you get enough hype about your game, if your game's good enough, you'll make money. It's very hard to get people to drop $60 and $80, especially as the economy is continuing to rescind a little bit. So how do you get people to play your game? Well, you have to put a lot of money into marketing. Well, indie developers don't have those kind of funds. They can't put that much money into marketing. They can't build hype at that level to their game. So what do? Well, they use advertising. I don't know about you all or the developers in the group, but I hate advertising. I want to build an experience. I want to build something fun for people to enjoy. And if an ad pops up right as you're about to kill the boss, that's not a great experience for people. People need to make money for their time that they're spending. So that doesn't feel great either. So ILP kind of flips this on its head a little bit. If we look at ecosystems like Amazon Web Services, Heroku, and there's many other models like this, those kind of systems are moving towards paying for utilization. I, as a startup, can use Amazon Web Services. I can get all of their products, and I can pay lower fees for my monthly usage because I'm not the same as a Microsoft. I don't use that much stuff. This is what ILP is for game developers and game players as well. So now, every time someone plays your game, you get a piece of a penny. Well, that's not very much money. Okay, so now what we need is scale. The model works, you need scale. One of our partners did an economic study on ILP, and it showed some really interesting use cases. One of them was the game Flappy Bird, which at its peak, I think, had 50 million players. And if you applied the ILP model to it, the game developer would have been making 20 to 30 times more money per day. The top player in the leaderboard spot would have been making $250K per day. That's the power of ILP at scale. So we believe that this model is great for game developers. We also believe it's great for players. It incentivizes them together and puts them toward a common goal, which is building great games, building great experiences. So how does this work under the hood? It's based on the BSV blockchain, which I'll talk a little bit more about here in a second. And then we have Haste Arcade. and then you got hand cash actually right here in the middle somewhere. Player puts in their quarter for game one, and then that quarter immediately gets split. It gets split for paying the leaderboard. It also pays the developer over here. It pays what we call referrals, so if you refer people in the arcade, you get paid for that. It also pays Haste, the platform, as well, which is one of the models that Rafa was talking about too. And all of it happens instantly. That's a theme you're going to continue to hear today, instant payouts. That's very powerful. That's how this system works, and ultimately creates a better experience for developers and players. So how do you integrate with Haste? So what we provide for game developers is we provide a few things. We provide the payment processing. We provide the authentication of the system, meaning how do I know who you are and what your wallet is? And then we provide the leaderboard management, so we track everyone's score. We also help ensure some security around the game cheating and things like that. But at the end of the day, you need some kind of SDK or package to integrate with. We have two today. We have a TypeScript, JavaScript SDK, which is standard. Not everyone's building games on the web though, so we also have a Unity-based package that folks can integrate with. I also did something in Godot as well, so if you happen to be a Godot developer, that's something we can help with too. And again, the integration is actually quite simple. It's similar to what Rafa was showing with Handcash. It's a few lines of code to get people to integrate. So what you need to focus on as game developers is just building great games. Build a great experience, build games that people want to play. Integration itself is usually secondary. Why BSV? Again, these are things you're going to hear throughout the talk. They're very, very similar because it's very powerful. Instant payouts. ILP is a new concept. It cannot exist without BSV. We've had a number of blockchain folks, and again, I mentioned I'm new to the blockchain space. I have no preconceived notions around it. I just assumed Ethereum was the best and people should use that, but it's really not. Like there's a lot that goes into why BSV is great. The things that go with that are the instant payouts. You can't do that on Ethereum. We've had a lot of people come to us and say, hey, we love your platform, but we hate BSV. We want to use Ethereum. Okay, well, so start that conversation. Okay, well, you're playing a game like Jump, takes you 30 seconds to play. People want to play for a penny, but they don't want to pay $25 or $80 in gas fees. Like, what kind of experience is that? So that's when ILP would start to break down on different chains. So BSV is really the only chain that works for us. The other is unbounded scaling. There's approximately 3 billion gamers in the world today. So that's a little bit less than half of the world considers themselves gamers. Now, most of those people are not esports folks, they're just playing games on their phones, these hyper-casual type of games. But that's still a lot. It's a huge market. So when we think about Haste Arcade, we're not a crypto company. We're not trying to build a crypto game. We're trying to build games for mainstream people like my mom or my older brother that doesn't understand technology. Folks like that are who our target market is. If we don't have unbounded scaling, we cannot reach those people. The system will crash after 1,000 transactions per second. So we need this unbounded scaling for Haste to work. I'll mention the ecosystem. That is more generic of a term. Specifically, think folks like Handcash and other companies in the space. It's a very fun space to be in because there's a lot of new companies getting started. They're sharing ideas. It's just very exciting to be a part of something like that. And we've met a lot of great people along the way that have helped us with Haste. We've helped them in return. Just a lot of positive energy in the space. Rafa mentioned stability. We can't have it break. Solana's gone down 8 times in the past year and change. I don't want my system to go down 8 times in a year. I can only control what I can control. We've got our servers running on AWS. I expect AWS to provide a service where these systems don't go down, and they usually provide that. I need the same for my blockchain technology as well. Finally, NFTs. I talked about Haste Collectibles. We're just starting to get into the NFT space with Haste Arcade. There's so many use cases for NFTs. Not all of them are cosmetic. Player cards were mentioned in the video. where we've got NFTs that you can purchase where ultimately you get paid just for owning that NFT. That's real utility in an NFT. It's not just a JPEG on the internet somewhere. So that's exciting. All right, so now I want everyone just to kind of, you don't have to physically close your eyes, but mentally close your eyes and think about the future of gaming. I mentioned there's 3 billion players in the world. Esports is another area that's really hot right now. More people watch the League of Legends championship tournament than any other media combined. That's how many people care about this. Very exciting things. When we think about Haste Arcade, we're just getting started and where the future's going. I want AAA games on the arcade. I want esports organizations, getting involved, creating a new experience for casual gamers to earn money. Not everyone can be a professional gamer, but with Haste Arcade, that actually makes it possible for people to make a living doing something they love, which is playing games. So thank you for your time, and if there's any questions, I'd love to take those now. So the question was, what is your number of effective users? So the number of users in the arcade is about 3,000 today. That is growing at a rate of about 20% per month. One of the interesting challenges that you're kind of hitting on there for game developers is the chicken and egg problem. So chicken and egg problem where game developers, they want to monetize their game. Well, how do you do that without users? Well, how do we as an arcade attract players if we don't have good games? So that's where the chicken and egg problem comes in. We essentially have to subsidize that. So we are building our own games that, we're trying to build fun games, but I build most of the games. I'm not a game developer. We don't have a huge team of artists. We don't have a huge team of game designers, et cetera. So we have to create fun games. That's another reason to do hyper casuals because the games don't take as long to build. But it's our job as Haste to bring users in the arcade. So we have a number of different marketing plans that I'd be happy to talk to anybody about that cares to try to bring users to the arcade and ultimately solve that problem. We're also going to be doing a developer competition later this year. We're going to be working with the Bitcoin Association on that to essentially give a prize for folks to build games to help subsidize those costs. To make sure that people are getting paid for their time. For the top earner, how much money are they actually making right now? It actually has a few variables. So I mentioned the different payment tiers. So on the nano payment tier, you're not really making that much money with 3,000 players. You really need millions of players to make those numbers actually start to add up. For the high roller ones, which is a $100 play, they're making $8 a play. Type of thing. So I'd say it ranges anywhere from $20 a month to $500 a month. How do you prevent cheating? This is something we took very seriously from the beginning. And actually, Rafa mentioned our original game, Haste, which is a reaction-based game where you just tap a dot. That game couldn't be secured because it was too simple. You tap a dot. How do I prevent, let's say, a bot from just tapping the screen and getting a great score? So we have a number of things that we put on our side around what is a reasonable score for a game to help prevent that. But more importantly, when we built our beta platform, which is what you see out there today, we moved to a model called server authoritative, which some game developers are familiar with, some aren't. I've talked to a lot of different ones over the past year. Most people that are building games for iPhone, Android, they don't have to deal with this problem. So imagine Candy Crush or something like that that's really popular today. No one gives a shit if you cheat at Candy Crush on your own phone because who cares? You got a great score on your phone, great job, guy. But in this system, you're getting paid, so that matters. So we have to move to a different model. So the server has to be in charge of deciding what the player's position is, how they are positioned relative to the enemies, how do they score. All that has to be managed by the server, and that's actually the biggest challenge for integration with the arcade. I mentioned that it's easy. The integration itself is easy. Making it cheat-proof is not easy. How are you going to reach 1 million users? We're just going to pay them a lot of money and hope that they come. Now, there's a few different strategies. I'll I'm going to give a real brief summary, but if you want to talk more afterwards, happy to explain further. So getting users for a startup is obviously challenging, so there's a few ways we're going to do that. First is advertising, marketing. We don't believe in so much in paid advertising, so like Google Ads and those kind of things. We don't expect a lot of results from that. But that is a prong in our marketing strategy. So we're going to be doing that. The second thing is doing events like this and ultimately getting people to know what the arcade is. It's doing things like gaming competitions to build interest in it. And then finally, it's finding what kind of games people want to play and then essentially building those kind of games for people to bring them to the arcade. Currently, as I mentioned, our growth rate is about 20%. Per month, and it's been pretty consistent month over month. But how do you go get 1 million users? Well, we really need to partner with some folks like esports organizations as well to help get more gamers to know who we are. So we're actually partnered with a group called Built by Gamers. They're a gaming organization in the States. And so we did a recent kind of test run with them where some of their gamers were in between their matches. I think they were playing Fortnite. In between their Fortnite matches, they were talking about Haste Arcade. They were playing some of the games and ultimately creating an experience for their followers to compete against them, which is really fun too. And it's going to be, I think, a new thing in esports where folks can actually interact with the players that they love and they follow. And that's one thing that I think makes it unique compared to, say, traditional sports like football or basketball, because you can't really interact with the players. But with gamers, you can interact with them, and that's really fun. Wants to integrate with the arcade. Do I need to change my game mechanics? Do I need to change how the game works in order for that to be possible? It's kind of a nuanced answer. It really depends on the game. So I don't want to give a hard and fast rule. Generally speaking, no, you don't have to change the mechanics. But let's imagine what kind of games lend themselves to ILP. So the game needs to have a score. So you have to be able to rate the player in some way relative to another player. The score can't be repeatable in a consistent way. It's fine if people get the same score, but you don't want a theoretical maximum that people can reach very often. So one of our games is called Forest and Fire. It's a wizard running around, fireballs shoot at him. You collect coins. As you get more coins, more fireballs appear. You can theoretically have an infinite score, but you get to a certain point where the number of fireballs is too great, but it's very hard to get there. And so people are scoring 660, 670, 680, but they're not scoring it every time type of thing. But if you had a max score of 100 and 50 people could get on your leaderboard, well, then the payouts aren't very interesting. The harder problem is what I mentioned earlier, which is the server authoritative piece. That's where the work would go into converting your game if it doesn't already have that kind of server authoritative component. All right, great. Well, again, thank you for your time, and thank you to the Bitcoin Association.